Hey everyone, welcome back to Alf's Mustang Garage. We are back working on this 289 engine assemble. The last thing that we did was painted the block, so she's turned out to be pretty good, I think, for the most part. If you missed that video, I'll put a little card to kind of slide across the top here for you. But I'm making a whole playlist and series of this engine that we're going to put together. 289 Ford small block 1966. The very first thing that I like to do on these is install a camshaft. So with that being said, the reason why is when you're installing the cam, it is so much easier to be able to reach down when there's no crankshaft in the way and just kind of aid and assist it. Because what most of us do is we have the crank in there and everything, we're trying to slide the cam in and it goes in easy at first, but as soon as you get to the end, you're trying to rock it up and down and get it into the very last journal, and it's just so much safer to just kind of assist it going in. So the first thing we're going to do is the camshaft. What we got for us is we have a comp cam. This is a extreme energy street performance. I'll list a part number for this specific cam in the description. When it comes to selecting a cam for your specific engine or your specific build, there's so many variations and different things to be looking out for when it comes to cams, that you want to call the people at Comp Cams. They are extremely helpful. They will ask you kind of what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, whether it's a performance application or just a nice daily driving cruiser that you're gonna run pump gas through. They will help advise you to get the correct cam for your application. Because I'm not gonna dive into how to do that. It's just way too much, and everybody has a different build going on. Anyways, this is the cam we're going because we're trying to achieve just a kind of nice street driving car that's a little bit more than your stock application. But this is the cam that we're using. If you want to kind of see the specs on there, there's the part number. I will post all this information in the description below. Okay, so inside your cam box, you're going to have all your paperwork with your specifications. That's probably good to hold on to. It's got new dowel pins for when we install our timing gear. We'll hold on to those. It does come with some lubricant. We're not going to actually use this lubricant. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just going to use my specific stuff that I use. And then of course we have the camshaft. Before this cam goes in, what we're going to do is we're just going to clean it off. It's going to have an oil on it, but we're just going to make sure it's completely clean from any kind of metal shavings from the grind process and all that. We just want to really make sure. I mean, this one has a hair in it, so I mean it just gets dirty from the process as this goes through. So we're going to make sure we really clean this really well. Okay, so now that you have your camshaft all clean, I'm going to talk a little bit about the types of lube that we're using. And just for information, this is the book that I'm referencing to as far as this whole engine build goes. There's a lot of good references and resources out of here. I would highly recommend, if you're putting an engine together by yourself for the first time, that you just invest a small amount into a good specific book to put this together. This is a hydraulic flat tappet camshaft, okay? And you're gonna want to use two different lubricants. Engine assembly lubricant, any kind of major brand is gonna be just fine. That is what is going to go on the camshaft journals, okay? That rides on the cam bearings. Now for your lobes, you want a moly grease, moly lube, okay? And that's for the cam lobe break-in process. It's very crucial that you have that on there for the first startup. So we're gonna put moly lube on all the lobes and just basic regular engine assembly lube on all the journals. Okay, so in preparation, we're gonna pull all the main caps off. So we can reach down in here. Now you can like reach right down in here as like you're installing the cam and just kind of aid and just kind of put it through there. It's just so much nicer. I try to do as much as possible on camera, but there are certain things that happen off camera that I do need to talk about, such as the cleanliness of your block. You need to make sure everything is as clean as possible, and that includes, you know, your oil passages, your oil galleys. You need to like clean those out. I usually like to blow them out with clean, filtered, compressed air, and spray it out with even some carb cleaner or brake cleaner. Because you don't want any kind of foreign materials that are stuck inside there from the machine shop to get lodged into a cam bearing or a main bearing, okay? Just because your machine shop cleans your block doesn't mean that there's something that might have gotten stuck or left behind in there. So you really, really want to pay attention to cleaning and just being very diligent with that kind of thing. So with that being said, like I didn't do that on camera, but it was done. So that way I can satisfy, you know, all the Dudley do-rights out there that love to comment on the videos. Okay, so I do like to try to get a coat on the bearings so they're not completely dry before we install the cam. This is kind of harder to do like as you go further back. So I just don't want them to be like completely dry. I think it's also worth noting that this engine block has already been to the machine shop. It's already had all the new cam bearings installed. This has got brand new cam bearings. Oil galley plugs have already been installed, and everything's been bored out, and crank's been line owned and all that good stuff. So, because when you start a engine build, you want to like make sure you take it to the machine shop and have everything checked and machined, and everything's going to be running true and whatnot. So, all right, so we're using a cam holder tool to kind of help aid us here, but we're going to put this moly lube on all the lobes. Justin, can you come get this book out of here so I don't drip on it? Yep. There we go. Okay, so you got the moly lube on all the lobes, and it's just important to kind of make sure that every part of that lobe is coated. So I'll just kind of go over it and make sure with my finger that it's all nice and smooths out all over here. So another funny thing about camshafts, like right now, we're kind of like in this weird time where it's like really hard to get camshaft cores, or it's hard to get camshafts. The company's making the cams, it's like hard to get the cores, just raw materials. So it took, we ordered this in September, and it is now December by the time we actually received our camshaft. So it's always good to like think ahead. If you're trying to do this, you might want to get on the waiting list. So this is like way helpful if you have an assistant here to kind of help. Just trying to let Christian get in the way there. So he's going to put it right on the journal like this and kind of smear it around. Okay, go ahead and squirt a good chunk right on the front one there. And this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to stick it in, and then we're just going to turn it and make sure all that lube is all over. Okay, and then while that one's just kind of chilling there, Justin's going to lube up this second journal. Okay. Now the first couple journals are going to be really easy, but you still want to be really careful not to nick your cam bearings. Okay, ready for the third one there, Justin?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is where I'm gonna reach in and be really careful. Just kind of assist that to the next journal. And again, I'm just gonna go like that. Okay. Good job. Every time I get like the back of the cam into a new journal, I like to just kind of rotate that, make sure all that assembly lube gets well lubricated on that cam bearing. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. Very nice. So this is where, like, if you are not like assisting here inside the block, this is where people will like kind of try to get leverage here on the front of the cam and try to lift it into the last journal, and it's just too risky if you ask me if you're going through all this to build this engine. So if you have the opportunity to do this, I understand sometimes you're just changing a cam, you know, with the engine still in the car, but if you have the opportunity to do this on a stand, then why not? And she's in. Okay. She's in and all lubed up. Okay, so the last part of this cam install that we're going to just focus on for this video is the thrust plate. So I have the original thrust plate here, but usually when I'm doing a complete ground up engine rebuild, I'm going to get a new thrust plate because these do have a tendency to wear. You don't want your cam to walk on you and just kind of have excessive movement. So a new thrust plate is always recommended. You'll probably note that these replacement ones have a little dog ear on them. It's also labeled front and has a little oil galley. That's just oil from the cam bearing that's going to get pressurized and come through this little journal to kind of just keep oil lubricated on the face of this thrust plate. That's all that's for. So when I install these, I do use red Loctite because I don't want any chances of these working themselves out. So make sure the front is the front and the little groove is facing the cam. So it's going to go this way, which covers up this little port right here. So before I put this on, I like to kind of make sure that has enough pre-lube on that. So now we're going to torque that. The specification is 8 to 10 foot-pounds. I'm going to go right in the middle at 9. Okay, so that's the thrust plate on there. The camshaft is in. It's all lubed properly. The only other thing that I didn't talk about when installing the cam is make sure you put some of that Molly lube on the distributor gear itself, because you want to make sure that's good and properly lubed for when you install your distributor and fire this thing up for the very first time. Camshaft is now complete, and so the next thing we're going to be doing is installing the crankshaft, and that'll be in the next video. So we appreciate you being here, appreciate you watching. I hope you find this video to be helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to follow us along, please subscribe to the channel. It does help us grow, which helps us continue to make more videos for you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.